Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dakota Fundraising News Podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 16th. Pumped to be bringing you a new episode here on video, as these will be going forward. Just one episode last week. We'll also just be doing one episode this week, as we will be traveling. I'll be down at the MMI conference in Charlotte. Looks like a large number of our subscribers are actually headed to that, which we're pumped to see all of them. Konch, you're going on a little bit of a birthday trip?
Yeah, just gonna go visit some friends out in the West Coast, LA, San Fran. So nothing too crazy, but excited to take a little bit of time off. But we will surely be back next week with some more episodes.
Nice.
You were just in London with the team last week?
London with the team last week. It was quite fun. Our event, we had the highest attended London event. You have to forgive me that I'm blanking on the numbers right now, despite having a laptop right in front of me. But the highest attended London event that we've had yet, which is awesome just to see us continuing to grow. We've grown a ton as far as international data goes. You've seen that happening on this podcast. You see it happening in Dakota Marketplace, really everywhere. But without further ado, I guess let's just jump into it. We actually have a quick, on the job and role changes segment that we'll get into. There's a Middle Eastern pension who's made a new change, but I'll leave that to Konch. I'll kick off here, though, with Michael Burgos has now been named the Director of Investments at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. That is a new role for Michael, who was previously at Stepstone on the private equity side.
Yeah, nice, Pat. You mentioned Middle East pension, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. They just named a CIO of their alternatives group there, so Alberto Santulin. He was appointed that position. Previously was over at Blackstone's alternative asset management group, managing director over there. So pretty significant move for Middle East pension out there. Continue to call any moves out there, as we know those pools of capital are definitely of interest to all of our listeners.
Yeah, Blackstone just can't stay out of the news either. But Grant Kaiser, actually new investment analyst at the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. That's a endowment foundation situation. He was previously at Cambridge as a consultant as well. So good to see him moving, from the consulting side into, working for what was maybe one of their clients. I'm not enough of an expert, but you see that happening a lot in the consultant space. Speaking of moves, though, a lot of people's favorite episode or favorite segment, of the episode is this RIA movement. Why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, for sure. Anything that we're calling out here, you can definitely find in Dakota Marketplace. And then if you're not checking out our website on a monthly basis, we're publishing an aggregate of all the RIA and FA moves, thanks to our data analyst, John Washington, and our news team out there. So just a quick shout. But yeah, we'll start out with Merrill Lynch. We talk a ton about some other big aggregators. I don't know if we've talked about Merrill in the past few weeks, but they just snagged two teams from Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. So around $1 billion combined AUM. The Hill County Group coming over from Morgan Stanley. They're based out in Austin, managing around $450 million. And then Michael Puleo also joined, coming over from JP Morgan Private Bank, where he oversaw around $500 million too.
Nice. Yeah, on the East Coast, I guess that was Austin.
Yeah.
So now we'll jump over to the East Coast. We had Allworth Financial add a New Jersey-based wealth manager that is George McKelvey Company, over $1 billion in assets in New Jersey, and he is supported by 8 staff members that will be joining, as well as 9 advisors on this team. That team manages, like I said, $1.1 billion, so being added to the Allworth Financial platform, which will now have, if I'm not mistaken, $22 billion, give or take, under management altogether.
Awesome to see Allworth continue to grow there. Speaking of growing, we talked about Cerity last week with their merger with the $1.4 billion Janizik Wealth. They've also looked to acquire SBC Wealth out of Indianapolis. That's going to be $1 billion in managed assets to Cerity Partners, expanding their footprint out in the Midwest there. So as I said, we'll continue to call these out as we see them, but we'll move on to our institutional coverage now. Searches, Pat, there's always a ton going on here. We're recording this on the 14th of October, but thanks to John Washington again, our data analyst, we got some insights from an upcoming Wisconsin investment meeting. Pat, why don't you tell us what they're looking to do?
Yeah, kicking us off with searches, we have the State of Wisconsin Investment Board. Actually, when we were just in London, our team met someone from Wisconsin, which was kind of funny. You don't think that it's going to happen? And then we have a colleague who actually went to University of Wisconsin, so good state for the Dakota team, I guess. But I'll get back on schedule. 2025 Asset Allocation Review, State of Wisconsin Investment Board. The following targets have been recommended. They're going to discuss at a future meeting later on this year. The first, their equity target looks like it's going to be 38%, which will be down 2%. The fixed income target, 27%. The tips will be 19%, and then private equity and debt together, 20%, which is a 2% increase. And then finally, they'll wrap it up with real estate with an 8% of their $155 billion pension that they're managing in Wisconsin.
Yeah, nice. Checks out. We've been talking a ton about private equity and credit on the podcast throughout the year, so increasing their target there definitely makes sense. Over to the West Coast here, Oakland Police and Fire Retirement System. They've issued an RFP for fixed income. They're looking for managers of core and core plus fixed income, looking to allocate anywhere between 25 to 100 million there. Going back to alts though, private infrastructure, Pat, I think there has been something new coming out of Illinois.
Something new coming out of Illinois. I actually am going to Chicago on December 5th, so that will be something new going into Illinois, as I've never been there before. Pumped about it. But yeah, private infrastructure allocation new out of Chicago for the Illinois Firefighters Pension Investment Fund. We're very excited to see what they're doing. So they actually previously had 0% of their pension invested in private infrastructure, but they're going to work up to 4% over the next few years. And the way they're planning on doing that is by $80 million in allocation. Again, sort of not in perpetuity per se, but for the foreseeable is what they've disclosed. So no hard cutoff or no hard gap on that, but it will be exciting to see the decisions that they make over there in Chicago. And again, they do use Makita as their consultant, which whenever you want to take note of that. Field consultant Jess Downer, you can find her information in Dakota Marketplace.
Awesome, Pat. Yeah, speaking of infrastructure and searches, Chicago Policemen's Annuity and Benefit Fund, they've actually selected the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 2 for a $25 million allocation. They were considering grain management as well. This was a search from earlier this year. So interesting to note there. And then we have a couple other new investments that we've tracked over the past week or so that we wanted to call out.
Yeah, up next is TRS of Louisiana. The Teachers Retirement System of Louisiana has made 3 notable allocations. The first is going to be a private credit fund that's with Ares. That's their Special Opportunities Fund 3. That is a $150 million allocation, so a great win for our friends at Ares. These are all pretty sizable allocations, actually. The next will also be in private credit, and that's with Everberg Capital Partners. That's in their Fund 3 as well. 80 million under management there, or 80 million investment rather. And then finally, on the large buyout side, Lindsay Goldberg Fund 6, $100 million investment by the TRS of Louisiana. So while they're not winning night games, they are putting money to work.
Love it. Yes, speaking of sports, going over to Michigan State Investment Board, sad weekend for Detroit Tigers. Used to live out in Detroit, so got a little soft spot there.
Yeah, but great weekend for the Detroit Lions. Beating the hell out of the Cowboys yesterday.
Depending who you ask, Aiden Hutchinson with the injury. I skipped the video, but looked gruesome from what I heard. But yeah, Michigan State Investment Board, $100 billion pension fund out of Metro Detroit area. They have disclosed a number of investments here, all pretty sizable amounts. So I just list them off real quickly, but $300 million to the Apollo Accord Plus 2 fund, that's private credit. Also within private credit, $150 million to the AMG Comvest Senior Loan Feeder Fund 2. $150 million to Veritas Capital Fund 9, that's private equity. $100 million to HarborVest Co-Investment Fund 7. $100 million to Thoma Bravo Discover Fund 5. Another Thoma Bravo fund here, Thoma Bravo Fund 16, received $50 million. And then 2 others, kind of small allocations. $10 million to Excel London 8, and then $26 million to the Bentel Green Oak Europe Fund for its real estate strategy. That'll wrap it up for our standard coverage there, Pat. Anything that you want to close us off with?
I think I'm all good. We want to call out some events that are coming up, though. On October 23rd here in Philly, we'll be having Dakota Cocktails. That's next Wednesday as you're listening to this. We're pumped about that. It's actually right here in our event space that we host. If you come and you are a fan of the podcast, we'll give you a private tour of the Dakota studios. So very exciting for that. And then we have Toronto on November 6th before we start to wrap up the year. We'll be doing a Palm Beach event at the end of November. Keep your eyes peeled for the invite for that. December, probably going to do New York and then Philly. In the meantime, thanks everyone for listening in as always. It's a pleasure, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Thanks, guys.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediary database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today.